There's a quiet question forming beneath the noise of our modern age, a question that does not shout, but waits patiently for those willing to listen. As screens glow brighter, machines learn faster, and human capability stretches into places once imagined only in dreams, a deeper concern emerges. Not simply what can we build, but who are we becoming as we build it? This is not a new question, though its setting is new. Long before circuits and code, Scripture wrestled with power, knowledge, creativity, and responsibility. Tonight, we step into that ancient conversation and carry it gently into a world shaped by silicon and algorithms, asking whether Christian virtue can still offer guidance in an age of artificial intelligence and biotechnology. Before we continue, if you find value in these calm, reflective explorations of Scripture and its relevance to the modern world, take a moment to like this video and subscribe to Biblescope. Your support allows this channel to continue offering thoughtful journeys through faith, history, and meaning. Now, let us begin. The Bible opens with a creator who works. God shapes, names, separates, and blesses. Creation itself is an act of intentional design. Humanity is then formed and given a task to cultivate and keep the garden. This first assignment is not passive. It is creative stewardship. Humans are invited to participate in God's ongoing care for the world. This is the earliest framework for technology, not machines, but tools, methods, and skill used to shape the environment responsibly. When Scripture later describes early human innovation, it does so without condemnation. We read of those who forged tools of bronze and iron, those who developed music, those who built cities. Creativity is part of the human calling. Yet almost immediately, Scripture places this creativity within a moral context. The same skills that can build can also dominate. The same knowledge that can heal can also harm. The question is never simply whether humans can do something, but whether they should and why. This tension appears vividly in the story of Babel. Humanity, unified by language and purpose, seeks to build a tower reaching the heavens. The issue is not architectural ambition alone. It is the desire to secure identity, safety, and significance apart from God. Let us make a name for ourselves, they say. Technology here becomes a means of self-exaltation. God's response is not fear of progress, but concern for unchecked pride. The scattering that follows is not punishment for innovation, but a correction of misplaced trust. What does this reveal about God? It reveals a God who values humility over hubris, relationship over domination. And what does it reveal about humanity? It reveals our tendency to confuse capability with authority and progress with purpose. As centuries pass, Scripture continues to address power and wisdom. Kings are warned not to multiply horses, wealth, or wives, not because resources are evil, but because excess leads the heart away from dependence on God. Wisdom literature praises skill and knowledge, yet repeatedly insists that the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. Knowledge divorced from reverence becomes dangerous. When we step into the teachings of Jesus, we encounter a radical recentering of value. Greatness is redefined as service. Power is reimagined as sacrifice. Authority is expressed through love. These teachings quietly challenge every era's tools, including our own. Jesus does not reject influence. He reorients it that in our technological age, influence is unprecedented. Artificial intelligence can shape decisions, conversations, and even perceptions of truth. Biotechnology can alter bodies, extend life, and redefine health. These developments inspire awe and concern in equal measure. Scripture does not provide technical manuals for such innovations, but offers something deeper, a moral compass rooted in virtue. Humility stands at the center of Christian virtue. Scripture consistently warns against pride, especially the pride that comes from power and knowledge. Paul reminds believers that knowledge can puff up, but love builds up. In a world where machines can outperform humans in certain tasks, humility asks us to remember that intelligence is not the same as wisdom. Capability is not the same as character. Humility in technology means acknowledging limits. It means recognizing that not every problem is best solved through automation. It means admitting that data cannot fully capture human dignity. It invites developers, leaders, and users to ask not only what is efficient, but what is compassionate. Compassion itself is another ancient virtue with modern relevance. The Bible consistently portrays God as attentive to the vulnerable, the poor, the sick, and the marginalized. Jesus' ministry centers on those overlooked by systems of power. When technology shapes healthcare, employment, surveillance, and communication, compassion becomes a necessary guide. If an innovation increases efficiency but deepens inequality, compassion calls for reevaluation. If a system optimizes outcomes but ignores individual suffering, compassion demands adjustment. The parable of the Good Samaritan reminds us that righteousness is not abstract. It is embodied in action, attention, and care. Technology that distances us from human stories risks dulling this virtue unless intentionally guided otherwise. Stewardship is perhaps the most directly applicable virtue to technological development. From Genesis onward, humans are entrusted with creation, not as owners, but as caretakers. Stewardship implies responsibility, foresight, and accountability. It assumes that actions have consequences beyond immediate gain. In the context of AI and biotechnology, stewardship asks long-term questions. How will this shape future generations? Who bears the cost of unintended consequences? Are we preserving what is good or consuming without restraint? Scripture's warnings against exploitation and waste resonate strongly here. The earth is described as the Lord's and humanity as tenants. This framing challenges any approach to innovation that prioritizes profit over people or speed over safety. The biblical vision of justice further informs this conversation. Justice in Scripture is not merely legal correctness. It is relational rightness. It involves fairness, protection of the vulnerable, and faithfulness to God's standards. When algorithms influence legal decisions, financial access, or social visibility, justice becomes a critical concern. Bias, whether human or encoded, can perpetuate harm. Scripture repeatedly warns against false weights and measures. This ancient image speaks powerfully to modern systems. When metrics distort reality, when efficiency outweighs equity, injustice follows. Christian virtue calls for transparency, accountability, and correction. Another often overlooked theme is the value of rest. Sabbath is woven into creation itself. God rests, not from exhaustion, but to establish rhythm. Rest is declared holy. In a world driven by constant connectivity and productivity, Sabbath challenges the assumption that more is always better. It invites limits. Technological culture often celebrates speed and availability. Yet Scripture affirms that boundaries are gifts. Rest protects humanity from becoming tools themselves. It reminds us that worth is not measured by output alone. Any technological vision that erodes rest risks eroding humanity. As we consider artificial intelligence, questions of image and likeness arise. Scripture teaches that humans are created in the image of God. This image is not defined by processing power or efficiency, but by relational capacity, moral responsibility, and the ability to love. Machines may simulate aspects of intelligence, but they do not bear God's image in the biblical sense. This distinction matters. It prevents both fear and idolatry. Fear that machines will replace humanity misunderstands human worth. Idolatry that elevates technology to savior status misunderstands God's role. Scripture consistently resists replacing trust in God with trust in human creations. At the same time, Scripture affirms cooperation. Tools can serve good purposes when aligned with virtue. The Apostle Paul used Roman roads and letters to spread the gospel. Early Christians adapted existing technologies for communication and organization. The question was never whether to use tools, but how. Throughout church history, Believers have wrestled with new developments, from printing presses to medical advances. Each era faced uncertainty. Yet again and again, faith provided a framework for discernment rather than rejection. This pattern offers hope for our present moment. What does this reveal about God? It reveals a God who is not threatened by human creativity, but deeply concerned with its direction. A God who values wisdom over novelty, love over efficiency, and faithfulness over control. What does it reveal about humanity? It reveals our remarkable capacity to create and our equal capacity to misuse what we create. It reveals our need for guidance beyond ourselves, especially when our tools amplify our influence. As we navigate a world increasingly shaped by technology, Christian virtue does not offer simple answers, but it offers enduring questions. Does this honor human dignity? Does this reflect love of neighbor? Does this demonstrate humility before God? These questions slow us down, and in that slowing, wisdom can emerge. Faith does not demand withdrawal from innovation. It calls for presence within it, grounded in character. Saints in Silicon are not those who reject the modern world, but those who inhabit it with discernment, integrity, and hope. As we come to the close of this reflection, consider how ancient wisdom continues to speak. In a rapidly evolving world, the deepest needs of the human heart remain unchanged. We still seek meaning, connection, and purpose. Technology can assist these pursuits, but it cannot replace them. If this exploration has encouraged thoughtful engagement between faith and modern life, remember to like this video and subscribe to BibleScope. Your support helps sustain these quiet conversations at the intersection of Scripture and the present world. As you move forward, carry this with you. Innovation shapes tools, but virtue shapes souls, and it is the soul, guided by God, that ultimately determines whether our creations become instruments of life or sources of loss.